Hello everyone. So today is technically my first ever drawing video. Of course, the one that I did do a few days ago was kind of like a PSA as to that I'm changing the content of my channel, which I'm really glad that I ended up doing. So with this, I would like to formally introduce myself. My name is Kamara, but please just call me Cami or something similar to that. Cami, I would enjoy if you called me that. So, this video is going to be my first video. It's going to be a 2-part series. I have always wanted to redraw or redesign the My Little Pony main 6 cast, mostly because I've just always wanted to see how I would interpret them. I love the My Little Pony cast. I grew up with them. That's practically my entire childhood. So I wanted to take the main 6 and I just wanted to redesign them, not to say I don't like the designs that they already have, but I feel like they could have done so much more, especially with Twilight and everything. But we'll get into that in the next video, because in this video I will be redesigning I think it was Applejack, Rarity, and Pinkie Pie. They were one of my favorites. Rarity was, out of the 3 that I'm designing, Rarity was definitely the favorite to me. Growing up, I've always just loved her so much. She's just she's such a diva. And then Pinkie Pie and Applejack, they never really stood out to me too much. I like them as characters, but not as much as the others. So I wanted to start with the characters that I wasn't super drawn to in the beginning. And so, let's first talk about their designs, or from the show at least. I felt like Rarity, she's so plain looking considering her, her profession. She's supposed to be a designer and she's supposed to be super fashionable and everything, and yet here she is super, I don't know, I wouldn't say she's weird looking. I love her design. I love the purple in her design. It's just she's way too simple in my opinion. You could have done so much with her considering her profession, but they didn't, which is really weird, I feel like. And then Applejack, I've always liked her hat, especially after finding out that her dad, Bright Mac, that's his hat. So it's a hand-me-down from her dad, and I find that so beautiful and so cute. So I definitely wanted to keep that in her design, which you will see me doing. Applejack, definitely, I struggled the most out of the main 6, I think. Applejack and Twilight, they were the hardest to draw, or hardest to get an idea of what I wanted to do with them. So you'll definitely see that in the speed paint, and I will touch on it a little more while we go over her and the rest of the video. And then lastly is Pinkie Pie. She definitely lives up to her name, Pinkie Pie. So I wanted to add a little more accent colors to her. She's still pink, mostly pink, yeah, for sure, but I did wish that she was, just a little more versatile in color. They did kind of add more color to her, variety and color to her when it came to her cutie mark, but that's just way too simple. Also in this video, while I'm redesigning each of the characters, I will also be going over my alternate universe for My Little Pony, because I do have an alternate universe and I wish to go over it, and I think it's a very interesting one in my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoy this first video of mine of redesigning the My Little Pony main 6. If you guys wish to see me redesign any of the other My Little Pony characters, I would be happy to. And if you have any other, like, I don't know, media or cartoons that you wish to see in my style, or wish to see how I would interpret them in my any type of alternate universe, to be honest, I am open to ideas. Please leave them in the comments below, and let's get on to the video. We are starting off really strong with one of my favorite designs, actually. I really like the way that her design turned out. Not in the beginning, though. I honestly hated her design in the beginning. It was the proportions that always threw me off. I liked what I did with her colors and her hairstyle, as well as like her eyes and everything, but it was always just like the proportions that made me mad. So throughout the drawing, you will see me mess with the proportions and change certain aspects of her, especially like her ears, her horn, and like the length of her body and everything. I will like change a whole bunch of that stuff, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do with her when going in with this design. But before we actually start talking about the design, I wish to talk a little bit about my alternate universe. Sadly, usually the first redesign does get the curse of being like kind of like, I don't know, a background design while someone talks about the alternate universe and the rewrite of a character, and Rarity just sadly happens to fall as that character. Anyways, let's continue. So in my alternate universe, every pony is born as an earth pony. They are not born as an alicorn or a unicorn or a pegasi. They are all born as earth ponies, and once they get their cutie mark, that is when it is kind of decided almost that they are either unicorn, pegasi, or even an alicorn. This is all dependent on their like almost magic. Like, they have to have a certain amount of magic to either be a unicorn or a pegasi. So, of course, unicorns do have more magic, or they require more magic to become a unicorn compared to that of a pegasi. And earth ponies, sadly, have, like, the less magic. They don't have enough magic to become a unicorn and or pegasi. And then, of course, alicorns are, like the big macho man, like you have a whole bunch of magic. So that means that in my alternate universe, all of them were all born as earth ponies. Not only that, the higher the magic, the like a bigger of a toll it'll take on your body when you get a cutie mark. So I don't know if you noticed, but Rarity's cutie mark is kind of embedded into her thigh, and she also has a diamond embedded into her chest. That is because when she got her cutie mark, the diamonds didn't just like, you know, like kind of like turn into like this image on her body. They literally like dug into her skin, and it did hurt. Usually when getting a cutie mark, it is a happy process, but at the same time it is a very painful process depending on how you got it and where you got it from. So honestly, I'll say that Rarity, Twilight, and actually Rainbow Dash probably had the worst experiences when getting their cutie mark. And I do feel sad for doing that to them in my alternate universe, but honestly, character development, I don't care. It's great. It's great. So, yeah, that's like kind of like the basis around my alternate universe. That does mean that Twilight was an alicorn when she met the rest of the main 6. I will explain as to how that works once it's her time for like once it's time for her design. So let's also now move on to Rarity's character. Rarity is a very headstrong, very upfront type of person. She says what's on her mind, but she says it in like the most generous and like most like softest way possible. Like she's like not as brutally honest as someone like I'd say Rainbow Dash and or Applejack, which is kind of funny. She's like the lesser version of them, you know, when it comes to honesty, that is. Rarity was raised in a like almost like a nobility kind of outskirt type family. Like her family had money, but they weren't, you know, wealthy enough to be able to live in Canterlot. So she did grow up wealthy. I'm making quotation marks with my hands. She did grow up wealthy, but it wasn't wealthy to the point where she was able to live in Canterlot and where she was able to learn like table manners. She had to learn table manners and all that stuff and etiquette all on her own when she got older and actually debuted into society. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I have set this entire alternate universe in a more, I'd say, medieval-esque setting. So there are debutantes and balls and everything. I mean, like, it already kind of happens in the canon of My Little Pony, but I feel like it's just kind of brushed over and pushed over, but I want it to be like a very prominent thing in my alternate universe. So there are nobles and nobility as well as a hierarchy throughout the universe of My Little Pony for me, my alternate universe of My Little Pony. And I'd say that Rarity comes from maybe like a Baron family. A Baron? Is it Baron or Baron? But she comes from that type of family. Like, they had wealth, but they weren't super wealthy. Anyways, so Rarity kind of ends up in a position where she actually starts off as a cleric or, you know, a consultant for different, what are they called? Boutiques. Yes, boutiques. So she worked as like a front desk type of girl at a boutique for many years, and she kind of was like an understudy. And this was all after she got her cutie mark. She already knew what she was good at, but you have to start somewhere, right? Rarity knew that her talent wasn't just that of finding gems and using them. It was also based around that of sewing and knitting and everything and making clothes. So she definitely wanted to use that aspect of her talent, but usually people just used her for her gem finding abilities. So she was taken advantage a lot when it came to, you know, her talent. And she honestly got sick and tired of it, which is why she ended up quitting. And she decided to, you know, move and start her own business, and it was very successful. And that's how she ended up where she is now. Moving on to her design, like I said, I already knew what I wanted to do with Rarity's design. I had an idea. I've always liked how people like gave Rarity a darker color. I like her white, but at the same time, I think black does suit her well, especially considering that her hair is purple. I feel like it just blends everything in, you know? However, I still wanted to keep that white aspect to her design, so I made her marks white, and I feel like that was a great accent color for me when it came to Rarity. Like, it looks very nice in my opinion. Rarity kind of like met the almost like she was at the bottom of the barrel when it came to the standard of that of a unicorn. She was almost a Pegasus, but her magic was just right there to where she turned into a unicorn when she got her cutie mark. So Rarity is almost at the bottom of the barrel. She's not great at magic or anything, but she's talented enough to where she's able to use her magic to find the gemstones that she uses in her fashion and everything. I'm not too sure on the ages of the characters in the canon show, but almost all the characters are around their mid-20s. Rarity is specifically like 25, and she is the third oldest of the group. I will be disclosing who is the eldest and who is the youngest of the group as we go out through each design, but Rarity is the third oldest, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, this is Rarity. I really love her design. I hope that you guys like it as well. So let us move on to the next pony. Okay, so next up is Applejack. I remember stating that in the beginning of the video that Applejack, I struggled with her design a lot. I didn't know what I wanted to do with her. All I knew was I wanted her to have some resemblance to her mother and father, a little more, but I don't think her final design really, echoes that proposition. Like, I like her final design, but it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. I don't know. You guys can be the judge of whether she looks like her mom more than what she did in like the beginning or like in the canon of the show, you know? Anyways, we will first start off by talking about how Applejack got her cutie mark. Speaking of her cutie mark, I like the way that it turned out in the final design. I like the way I designed for this specific sketch. You'll see it soon, but like it was like cider, because I remember how much Applejack loved creating cider. Like she had a whole episode to herself where she was fighting for the rights to make cider in My Little Pony in Ponyville, you know? And I was like, you know what? I want that to be a prominent, talent in her actual key mark. But I couldn't really think of a way of how she got her cutie mark, So I decided to not just redesign Applejack as a whole later on, but also just take her cutie mark and make it a little simpler and pretty much almost the same as her original cutie mark, but still have a little cider hints, so it shows like a little liquid. You'll see. Anyways, so this first design, oh my gosh, it made me want to pull my hair out. Applejack looked so uncanny to me. Like, it was so bad. I hated this design so much. I ended up redesigning her. Like, oh my gosh, it was just so bad. I want to stop talking about this first design and let's just move on to Applejack as a character. Applejack is obviously very honest. She is the element of honesty. She was kind of like a liar in her adolescence, but something really bad happened to her mother because of a lie that she told, and ever since that day she just never told a lie. She was just always honest. Kind of similar to what happened like in that one episode where it shows like Applejack and Big Macintosh like as children, and everybody was like in disarray because Applejack was telling a lie and everybody was getting caught up in Applejack's lie, and Granny Smith ended up in the hospital, quotation marks, in the hospital because of Applejack's lie. It's similar to that, but something actually really bad happened to her mother, where her mother ended up getting really badly injured to the point where she got bedridden. So yeah, she just doesn't lie anymore because of that. that's one of the ways that she got her cutie mark. Her cutie mark looks like her regular cutie mark almost, I'd say, in my opinion. In the canon show, it just has a sliced open apple, and it shows 6 seeds to represent her and her friends, which I don't know, I just wanted to make a nod to. I think I saw that with someone else's design. I don't know whose design it was. If someone knows who I'm talking about, like the artist, if they know like the artist, please tell me in the comments. I would love to give them credit. But I don't know, I thought of that. I knew that I saw it somewhere, but I can't tell you who did that. Applejack is very family orientated. She would die for her family. Oh my god, why am I stuttering so much? She would literally die for her family. She would sacrifice anything for her family. She loves her family very, very much. They mean the world to her. I'd say that my version of Applejack is actually kind of rude a little bit. She's nice, but at the same time she is unconsciously rude to people, and that is because of her brutal honesty. It comes off as rude to so many people, and they hate it usually, but luckily like her friends didn't see it that way, and they accepted her for who she was. So many people view Applejack as like a rude person. Like in Ponyville, people view her, don't have the greatest opinion of Applejack, but they do know that if you want the truth, you should go to Applejack. You need to go to Applejack. That's all I can say about her. Not her character, but like her element of honesty. That's how honest she is. So, I know that I mentioned that there is nobility in my alternate universe. So let's talk about Applejack's social standing and where she is on like the social ladder. If it wasn't obvious, Applejack is obviously almost like at the bottom. She is well respected, like her family is of course well respected, but at the end of the day, people will always view her as just a farmer girl. There is like discrimination in my universe, sadly, but you know, that's just like the way of the world, you know, like there's going to be some discrimination here and there, but many people, when I say many people, Applejack's friends were able to look past the fact that she was brought up as a farmer girl and view her and see her as her, you know? And Applejack has always appreciated them for that, and she would never betray her friends because they treat her as an actual pony being. Get it? So knowing that Applejack grew up in a farm type family, Applejack obviously doesn't know any bedside manners or etiquette type of manners, and because of that, many people look down on her, even like the middle class, because Applejack is technically not even middle class. She's a farmer, you know? To help combat that, the only two nobles of the group, Rarity and Twilight, would sometimes help Applejack. And not just Applejack, even like Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie, because Pinkie Pie grew up in a farm-esque family as well. And then there was Rainbow Dash. I'm not too sure as to what type of family she grew up in, but she's not from the middle class. I'll tell you that. She's definitely not middle class pony. The only middle class pony in that group would be Fluttershy. Fluttershy had an okay upbringing. But yeah, so like during or before formal events where the main 6 have to show up, because obviously they show up to certain events because of their standing in the world, Twilight and Rarity would help Applejack, Rainbow Dash, and Pinkie Pie with etiquette and table manners. And Applejack was the clumsiest out of all of them. Rainbow Dash would pick it up easily, and Pinkie Pie, she would just kind of make the most of it. But Applejack would be really clumsy with that type of etiquette, you know? So knowing that there is a certain amount of magic when it comes to earth ponies, specifically in Applejack's family, have increased strength. So Applejack is a very strong earth pony. You don't want to mess with her. And they also show that, like, in the show, they show Applejack freaking stopping a really big boulder, I think it was, and she kicked it and it went flying. And I really want to give more of a reason as to why she could potentially do that, because I feel like there's no reason behind as to why she's capable of doing that in the show. Sure, she's the element of honesty and everything, and she's supposed to be strong, but in the show she contradicts herself so many times, and it sometimes just doesn't make sense as to why she could do certain things. So I wanted to give more of a reason as to why both Pinkie Pie and Applejack can do certain things in the show, and that reasoning is that earth ponies, to some degree, have magic. Like, yeah, they have magic. Anyways, moving on to Applejack's design. Let's talk a little bit about her design. Like I said so many times, I struggled. I was so pressed about Applejack's design. It honestly made me want to quit. Her first design didn't look right to me. Something was really off, and I ended up deleting it. And I redrew her entire, like, character. I gave her a new hairstyle, new everything pretty much. But I kept this color palette because, one, I didn't want to make a new one, and two, I honestly liked the color palette that I chose for her. I felt like I really wanted her mom to shine through her color palette. I feel like in the canon show, she does and she doesn't look like her parents. Like, she's like an inverted version of her parents, you know? Like, she has her mother's hair color on her body and then her father's body color on her hair. I don't know why that just doesn't make sense. So I gave her mother's hair color while giving her a similar color to her father's body color, and I felt like that worked pretty well. And I liked the idea of giving her like a darker brown accent as well as a lighter brown accent. So that's what I did, and I feel like it really helped to bring out the red in her design. Not just that, I really hope that whoever is watching, you the viewer, I hope that you've noticed that she has a whole bunch of scarring on her backside and a little bit on her front, but mostly her back legs. I would assume that she has old scarring from before she got her cutie mark, meaning that she was much more defenseless and she didn't have that extra endurance and defense on her, because like I said, earth ponies do have a certain amount of magic to where they don't get harmed really easily, you know? Anyways, yeah, I would assume that she has some sort of old scarring or scarring even after she got her cutie mark, because like she was clumsy still as an adolescent, you know? Yeah, I think that's about it for Applejack's redesign. I really would love to hear your critiques about it, and like what you like and what you do not like, and let us move on to the next pony and the last pony of this video, Pinkamena Pie. Pinkamena Diane Pie. First of all, I love her name. It's a mouthful, but it fits her for some reason. Anyways, going into her design, I knew what I wanted to do with her. I definitely wanted to keep the pink in her design, of course. It's in her name. I wasn't going to take away like a color that's in her name. And also when sketching her out, I wanted to give her a very dynamic pose. I wanted it to show that she is, of course, a party pony. So I made her like crouching down, like she's almost like about to spring on someone. And I think that was really cute, you know? I felt like her design was honestly really straightforward. She's probably the simplest design that I came up with when it came to, honestly, all of the main 6. She was really easy to redesign, in my opinion. I think that Pinkie Pie and Twilight are the only 2 that I feel like probably look the most similar to their canon designs in the show. That is color-wise, of course. Silhouette-wise, it's a totally different thing. But even silhouette-wise, I think that Pinkie Pie is probably the closest to her counterpart, her canon in the show. I don't really have much to say, so like in this beginning part, so let's talk about Pinkie Pie's character, also as to how she potentially could have got her cutie mark. I think that for me, Rarity and Twilight were like very upfront. I had an idea as to how they got their cutie mark, but with every pony else, I'm not super sure for now the lore as to how they got their cutie mark, but I will lay down the basics, hopefully, of how they got their cutie mark with each redesign that we go over. So let's talk about Pinkie Pie and her character, as well as how she could have got her cutie mark in my alternate universe. Pinkie Pie is a bit of an airhead. She can be a bit unaware of her surroundings, even though she has that pinky sense. Yes, the pinky sense is canon in my universe as well. I'm not taking that away from her. Anyways, she's very bubbly, cheerful, optimistic, and I would say that she's very similar to her counterpart, her canon in the show. I didn't change too much about her personality overall, I think. I think the only thing that I probably did change is that, actually, no, I didn't change anything, to be honest, when it comes to her character. I've always liked the idea of, like, her being a very bubbly character. Like, although she never really stood out too much to me, I did like her just a little bit because she was funny here and there. I was hard to impress as a kid, that's all I can say. I was a very huge critic when it came to jokes, which is probably the reason why I don't really like comedy now. Anyways, I'm getting off track. I think that's something that I did change. I mean, I'd say alternate universe wise as a whole, is that Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie have known each other since they were kids. That's mostly because Pinkie Pie was there. She saw Rainbow Dash falling from out of the sky when Rainbow Dash first got her cutie mark. Anyways, I'll explain Rainbow Dash's cutie mark story in her redesign. But yeah, they've known each other since they were kids. Anyways, let's talk about how Pinkie Pie could have potentially got her cutie mark. I'd say that she probably got it in an almost similar way as to how she got it in the show, which was like making her family laugh and everything. I think it was something like that. But I'd say that it wasn't just her family. She made the entire town that she was living in at the time. It was a very like bleak and like boring town. She made that entire, like, she made like a founding party, and like she threw that party, and everybody just loved it so much. And she found out that making people laugh and bringing smiles to people's face via party planning was her talent. And with that realization, that is how she got her cutie mark. Pinkie Pie does have her pinky sense, like I said, but I think that my explanation as to why she has it probably makes more sense in my head, that is, and I will explain it. I don't know how many of times I've said this, but like I said, with both Rarity and Applejack, Earth ponies do have magic to some extent. Applejack's magic just so happens to oh my god, excuse me, correlate or coincide with that of strength. And Pinkie Pie's magic, what little magic she does have, correlates to that of having almost like a sixth sense. She's able to sense danger, and she's quick to react to that danger. And it has helped so many of her friends and herself as well in dangerous situations. Like, in my alternate universe, it wasn't like the princesses who found out T-Rex was like back. It was freaking Pinkie Pie, because she sensed something was wrong with the world, and she was like, oh, I need to report this to the princesses. And with that, the princesses looked into it and was like, oh my god, T-Rex is back. And that's pretty much how like T-Rex was found out to be back. So yeah, that's she's very helpful in that sense when it comes to her pinky sense. It's not just random. Well, it is a bit random, but at the same time, it's not. I don't know how to explain it without it sounding weird. Going back to Pinkie Pie's design, I decided to give Pinkie Pie heterochromia. She's not the only one I gave heterochromia in my redesigns. I would love for you guys to kind of make a guess as to who I potentially could have given heterochromia to, but I felt like heterochromia really would have worked for her in the show. It adds to her design, and I think that it just makes her look all the more, I don't know, party-like, I guess you could say. Like, it just adds to her design so much, and I loved it so much. And if you noticed with each of my redesigns so far, I kind of like bring out each of the colors that I use in their palette. And I noticed that when I was doing Pinkie Pie's, she had the most colors in her design, and I just found that so funny, even though Pinkie Pie, in my opinion, was like she was the easiest and most simplest design to me, and yet here she is with the most colors. I just find that to be a little ironic. Anyways, yeah, so I gave Pinkie Pie heterochromia. I also gave her braces. Don't really ask me why. I feel like it just added to her character so much. It just fit her character so much, and I just had to add it. And yeah, Pinkie Pie, her cutie mark is throwing parties. So for my alternate universe, there are extensions, you could say, to each pony's cutie mark. They're not like super straightforward like they are in the canon, but they're pretty they have like extensions to each talent. So if you noticed, I said that Applejack's was farming, but also she has a really innate talent for making cider, which is why so many which is why so many ponies love Applejack's cider, because like she has a natural talent for it. And
it is shown a little in her cutie mark, but not really. And then with Rarity, her talent is technically discovering and finding diamonds or gems. Even in the show, her talent was technically discovering and finding gems and diamonds and stuff like that. But in the show, it is shown that she is a very good artist, like fashion artist, and I feel like that is not shown at all on her canon cutie mark. So I added like a little needle and thread in her cutie mark, if you noticed. While with Pinkie Pie's, hers is a little more straightforward than Rarity and Applejack, but she still technically has extensions to her cutie mark. And those extensions would be that of making people laugh. Like, she is technically a comedian, but her cutie mark is based around throwing parties. So she's a party thrower and a comedian, if that makes sense. Like, that's just like an extension of her cutie mark or her talent. It makes sense in my head, I feel like, but if it doesn't make sense to you, please tell me in the comments or something like that. I would love to hear some constructive criticism of my designs as well as my alternate universe. It would help a lot because I love creating alternate universes, and I really want that to be shown in my videos in the future. And if you feel like my alternate universe of My Little Pony sucks, please tell me. I just realized that I disclosed Rarity's age, but I didn't tell you guys Pinkie Pie's or Applejack's. So like I said, Rarity is 25 years old and she is the third oldest. Pinkie Pie is she's on the younger side in the entirety of the group. She is 22. And then Applejack is 23. Applejack and Pinkie Pie, they're about the same age. Like, Applejack and Pinkie Pie, their birthdays are like right there. So Applejack turns 23 first, and then Pinkie Pie turns 23 later. So currently, right now, she is 22, but she will be turning 23 like later on in the year. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's it for Pinkie Pie's design. I don't really have anything else to say. I made her very fluffy, if you notice. Like, she's very fluffy, and I love that about her design. So yeah, I will now close out the video. Alrighty, and so that is the end of this specific section, part 1. I will probably be uploading at least every Friday or during the weekend of every week. That's what I want to do. That's what I plan for my uploading schedule. So please expect part 2 to come out sometime next week, either on Friday or Saturday. It'll probably be Friday because I have already done a lot of the designs of the other 3 that we have left. I think the only design that I haven't finished or finalized is Twilight. I hope you guys enjoyed the redesigns of these 3 ponies, Applejack, Rarity, and Pinkie Pie. I certainly did. I loved making them. It was so much fun. I really liked the outcome of each of them, and I hope you guys like the outcome of each of them as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, like the video, and comment down below what you guys think of these designs. I love you guys so much, older viewers and newer viewers. Love you guys. Bye.